Hi there. Welcome to Mimi on the Move. Self-explanatory, I'm Mimi. I'm just about to head out. I have to go pick a prescription up at the drugstore, but I've done my indoor chores this morning. I got my vegetable patties made. Let me get them and show them to you. They're kind of cute. So, this is, damn, there's 3 of them here. I did 3. Well, I actually did 4, but I ate one to make sure they could. Does that translate? So what you're looking at is my vegetables for my dinner tonight and tomorrow. And in there is carrots, turnips, potatoes, onions, garlic, and spices, and eggs and panko. And I shred them all. And I mix them together with some eggs. I shred all the vegetables, mix them together with eggs and panko, and then I fry them on my burner. And a sec. Oh, for heaven's sakes, I shouldn't have done that, should I? Whatever. Anyways, and then usually I make more than that. But anyways, I have some recycle. I used up my eggs, so I've got some recycle to do. Oh yeah, so those vegetable patties, they're really good. Some people use a little sauce or something with them, but I don't. I just eat them the way they are. I fry them in olive oil. They turn out good every time. And it just means I don't peel vegetables every night, and I don't boil them. Sometimes I think boiling cooks some of the nutrition out, and I think frying in olive oil doesn't cook as much of the nutrition out. That's just me. What do I know? Anyways, I'm gonna be, before I go, I have to get these off. I have to get these off my windows because they keep the heat out in the summertime. And they keep the cold out in the wintertime. Sakozy covers. They're very good. The only problem with my front ones I'm going to show you, I don't want to mention it to them because they're the nicest people on earth, and I guess I should, but see this? This happened at about the 6-month mark. There's these pokey things are coming out there and also there. You see that? That's supposed to be inside, but for some reason mine don't want to stay inside. And this couple is so nice, I don't want to go back and say, oh, would you fix this? Because I bet you they can't. I bet you they'd have to make new ones. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to do that. For some reason, there's maybe something wrong with me. If I didn't know them, I would probably take them back. But I know them, and you know that feeling you get inside? You don't want to return something when you know the person. Yeah, that's how it is. Anyways, they are really, really very good, very functional window coverings, and just the luck of the draw that my 2 little pokey things have come through a while back. Anyways, I gotta get my mirror out, right? You know about that, right? Remember I showed you this before? I have to push that out. There we go. Oh, my arms aren't long enough. Big trucks everywhere. That's why I bring my mirrors in, because these trucks turn all around and you never know if they're gonna wipe out your mirror or not. Oh goodness. Okay, so I'm gonna go now, and I will catch up with you later on today. I have a little surprise video I'm working on today. It's called Hey You. Yes, you. I'm talking to you. Hey you over there. Truck driver was turning around staring. I'm not sure what he wanted. Yeah, but I'm working on the video. Right, I've done the song, I've done the lyrics, I've done the musical arrangement. I'm just now working on the video to go with it. It's a very short one. It's like not even 3 minutes long, but it's something I've never done before. I think it's kind of cute. Anyways, later. Oh gosh, I was thinking what to talk about today, and I don't like to just write down things I should talk about, because then I'm not going to talk organically, off the hip type of a thing. And so I just thought, well, I won't talk today. However, something did come to mind today, a little bit of a history lesson, maybe. Maybe it will bring us to current day. Now, again, I said on my video yesterday that I don't come here to talk about politics, but sometimes there's sort of a connection between what I'm talking about and the political world. I'm going to also remind anybody who happens to be here today that I am affiliated with no political party. I am, if astrology means anything to you, you'll understand when I say I am a Libra, and the scales of balance are what dictate to me every move I make. It is so ridiculous that if I do that, I have to do that. For me, balance is the key. And when I'm not in balance, it's not a good thing. I have to regroup and get balanced. And my best way to get balanced is by talking it out. So I'm going to go back to, I think it's about 2015, I think. I know it sounds like a long time ago, right? Oh, it really wasn't. But I made some notes, and I still had them in my notes in my iPad. And I was thinking about comparing those notes to today's world, which is like really 10 years later. A lot has happened in 10 years. A lot of societal changes have come about. A lot of attitudes have changed. A lot of behaviors have gotten worse. Not a lot have gotten better, I must say. I don't like that. But here's my notes. And with my notes, I always gave a receipt. In other words, I gave the other thought of the note. You'll get it as I go on. I don't need to explain it to you. You're smarter than me. Anyways, I wrote this note, and it was called Putting It into Perspective. Now, if you go back to that year, that was the year that Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump were running for the office of president. So let's start there, because we're not going to talk about Democrats and Republicans. We're not going to do that. That's not what I'm talking about today. What I am talking about is my biggest beef, the mainstream media narrative. And it's been going on for so long, but I really noticed it 10 years ago. And I've been really deep diving for 10 years into everything I can find about the media, who owns the media, who controls the media, who's deeply involved in the organization of the media itself, and so on. So I'm not going to go into all that because that'll be boring as heck for you. And it was 10 years of my work so far. Anyways, I recall during the campaign between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, which neither one of them I could care less about as politicians, because I don't get involved in politics. This is not about politics, and I can't say that enough, because I know even if I say it 20 more times, one of yous out there is going to go, oh, she's this or she's that. No, I'm not. I'm just looking for balance. All right. The big media propaganda was that Donald Trump was going to build a wall to keep out all Mexicans, therefore he's racist. And of course, the media being controlled by the Democratic Party, and Hillary Clinton, a Democrat, well, what they did with that is they started spreading the lie that Donald Trump should never be president because he's racist. And then they would say he wants to build a wall to keep the Mexicans out. No, that's not, never, he's never said that. He's never said that. What he said is that he wants people immigrating into the USA to come in legally. And there were many people that were coming in illegally. Now, there was already a border system. And speaking of that, why is there a border system between any two countries? But right now we'll use US and Mexico for one. Why is there a border? To control who comes into your country, right? And then why are there rules about how you enter a country? Because you need to screen them to make sure you're not getting the bad ones, shall we say. So having a border and having control at the border was always a USA thing. But because Hillary Clinton was darned and determined to be the president, and she was a Democrat, and the media is owned by the Democrats, and so on and so forth down the line, any statement that Donald Trump would have made at that time was taken, I'm going to name a few more, was taken and twisted. And because the majority of the population watching television news believe everything they hear on legacy media, they all were believing this lie, that he is a racist and he doesn't want Mexicans or anybody else from the South coming into the USA. And that's why he's building a wall. Not true. Okay? So just know that you can go back in the files on your own and check that out, what he said. All the videos are out there from every interview ever given. You can always put that in your Google and put the date in and who did the interview and who was it with, blah, blah. And you will actually find his words back then. And he didn't want people coming into the USA illegally. I'm going to move on. That's all I need to say about that. It has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with border control. And if you're running the country, you're in charge of the border. So you do it the way you see fit. And you give your reasons for it. And he did. His reasons was that he didn't want illegal people coming into his country. He wanted them to come in legally. And besides, how can he be racist? His own wife is an immigrant. Many of his friends are immigrants. He's not racist. But that was what the media wanted you all to believe. So guess what? Most of you did. And you aren't backing down, and I'm not trying to get you to back down. I'm just presenting some stuff here for you. Maybe not even for you, maybe for somebody else. You probably want to leave now if you're one of those, so go, and I'll see you another day or not. Okay, so then Trump talked about refusing citizenship to the people coming across the board illegally. Well, that makes sense to me. Canada would never give somebody citizenship if they got here illegally. They'd probably send them where they came from, send them back there. But the mainstream media, because of all the reasons I've already said, they wanted him again to look racist. All he was doing was he was preventing the ones that potentially give a high risk of crime and violence. Those are the ones he was trying to screen out by refusing them American citizenship. And if they were illegal people coming across the border, they were not even allowed to apply for citizenship under his administration. We know things got a lot different over the years, but that was back in 2015. So that's when the lies started, and they have continued ever since. Isn't that interesting? How powerful the media can be, and how believing the general population is when they're watching the media. Okay. So anyways, there was terrorist activity in the U.S. over the many decades, maybe hundreds of years, but there's been terrorism. And the thing is, when he wanted to reduce or stop people of a Muslim origin, and this was back in 2015, this is not now, but back then, he wanted to restrict entry and immigration to people of Muslim origin. Why? Not because they are Muslims. He said so on the news, but the news only played it one night and you never heard it again, because then the news took over and said he's racist. What he said was because he couldn't tell which Muslims were terrorists. And historically, almost all terrorism in the US was done by people of a Muslim origin. That's a fact. That's not being racist. Take a look at the terror attacks and look at their names and their place of origin. That's all you need to do. But guess what? People didn't do that. They just said it was much easier to call him a racist and leave it at that. So that's fine. That's what happened. But again, his own wife is an immigrant. He's not racist. Okay. All right. So now we're going to get back on, we're going to go to the media. I did make some notes today because there's too much here for me to just blah off my head like that. One thing that's really important to mention, I think I'll mention it at the end of this video as well. But remember that 90% of all US media is controlled by 6 corporations. So it makes it virtually impossible to get any information that is not consistent with their agenda. 6 corporations own 90% of the media. Well, that means that 90% of what you get is from the corporations that give money to the Democratic Party. Well, what does that tell you? I mean, what does that tell you, right? So if there's news and stories and quotes and interviews out there that are not promoting the Democratic Party, they don't get aired. They just don't. And I know that there's been like arguments where people go, oh, well, I never heard that on the news. And it would have been there if it would. No, it wouldn't have, because they need to control the narrative. That part, they're so powerful. These corporations that own 90% of the media, they're so powerful in our world. So that's how we get a one-sided news on legacy media, because 90% of them are being controlled by the 6 corporations that own them. They all just get scripts and they're told what to say. It has nothing to do with their belief, or they want to keep their jobs. They're going to do what they're told, right? So the only bastion of hope of getting any other news is by the uncensored internet. Independent journalists. At least if you can seek those 2 avenues out and hear different sides of the stories, then you can actually do some critical thinking on your own and come to your own darn conclusions. And you don't have to rely on any one set of information being given to you all over all networks on legacy media. So that's a good way to solve that little issue. If you're not sure about the information you're getting, just go and look at other sources and start comparing notes. That's all you have to do. I'm not here to change your mind or prove you right or wrong or anything. I'm just here just to give you some background on how little control we have over what we see on the TV when it comes to news anyways. I don't know about the rest. So before Trump ever ran, before he even had a campaign for running for the presidency, he was like a real estate tycoon and whatever other businesses he was involved in, but whatever, he had a lot of different connections and people, and he made a really inappropriate comment in the privacy of a men's locker room. And I'm not even going to say the comment because it was completely not for my ears. It was for the men in the locker room. But what happened when he was campaigning was somebody presented the media with that comment. It was a comment. It wasn't an act. He didn't do anything to anybody. He said something that none of us want to hear. And because of that, it went straight to the media after he was in campaigning. Nothing was said during the time because he was a regular guy in a men's locker room and saying what guys say. Come on, we all know, we like us women, we wouldn't mind being a fly on the wall sometimes. We know things are said. Not for our ears, that's for sure. But anyways, because it got so much attention, which was just silver plate right in the Democratic Party's hands, right in Hillary Clinton's hands, oh yeah, then he's called a misogynist. So first he's a racist. Now he's also a misogynist. And a misogynist is a person who dislikes, despises, or is strongly prejudiced against women. Well, if you ever watch anything about him, you'll know there's no truth in that whatsoever. He was just a guy in a locker room making a ridiculous, inappropriate comment that if his mother, sister, or wife heard him, they'd probably send him to his room, take time out. We women don't need to hear those things, but we do know they are said. So not one of you watching right now can tell me not one man in your life has ever said something inappropriate. But would that man ever want it blasted all over the media if he was trying to run for some kind of important office? No. But now we've got Donald Trump running for office. Now he's a racist because of what we already talked about. Now he's a misogynist because of an inappropriate comment he made before he was ever even in a campaign. And everybody's just sucking this up, right? Like a sponge. Everybody's going, oh yeah, because you know what? Donald Trump, when he had his show, what was it called? You're Fired or something like that. A lot of people didn't like his personality. But here's the thing. It was a show. It was supposed to be an entertaining show. It's just like with Jillian Michaels in The Biggest Loser. A lot of people didn't like her personality because she was so harsh, right? It's just a show. She's not like that in real life. She's not, even though it was a reality show. She's got podcasts now, and you can actually go and see Jillian Michaels, and she's not like that. Just like Donald Trump, that was a show for entertaining. It turned a lot of people off, no doubt, but it also turned a lot of people on because they actually found that this man is funny. At times, he's very funny. Anyways, so now he's a terrorist, or not a terrorist. He's a racist and a misogynist. Okay, and the other thing too is his current cabinet of employees is over 33% are women, smart women, intelligent women, capable women, women that earned the right to be there. Not like in the past administration, they would hire DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. I think that's what that stands for. What it means is, well, we don't have enough women in this department, so we just need to find a woman that's willing to take this role. Sometimes the woman was ready and capable for that role, but in many cases they were not. And that DEI was the beginning of the end for anybody that wanted to believe that men are men and women are women. That DEI, to me, was it may have started out being a really good thing, but it got bastardized. It got to the point where in the previous administration, they had a man in there dressed as a woman, saying he was a woman, running the defense. Same thing with the medical end of things, the health organization. There's lots of stories that go there. We're not going to go there because we're not going to start slagging people. But I'm just saying the DEI was, I think, a big mistake, even though the idea of it, the theory of it, was decent enough. But it got messed up big time. That's all I'm going to say about that. So let's go on. These naughty comments that I talked about where he was in the locker room, he made that, and then it got spread all over when it got brought out years later when he was campaigning, as if it had just happened, right? It didn't. It was years before in a locker room. But let me just say this. When your family member or friend or neighbor does a naughty comment, the difference here is that they don't have their naughty comments used against them publicly. and used over and over and over and over again until the world believes that's all they stand for. That's a problem. And that's what the illegitimate legacy media did for his entire first campaign. All right, I'm going to move on because there was another issue that came up. Okay, I got interrupted because my phone said it was full. There was no more room left to make a video, so I had to get rid of it and get another phone. And if the image is different now, that's why, because I'm on a different phone videoing. Okay, so where was I? I can't remember. I should have looked back and seen, but I think I was talking about the DEI and all that kind of stuff. Oh no, the naughty comments, right? I talked about that. Yeah, okay. Okay, so yeah, what I wanted to get into was the, when the border, let's go back again to the first 4 years that Trump took over the office of the presidency. There was a lot of people coming across illegally, by the hundreds of thousands actually, and they were starting to house these people. They didn't know what to do with them when they would catch them at the border. They had not a lot of places for them, so they had these chain link areas that were all sectioned off and whatnot. I saw it on a video one time when one of the government officials went down to check the border out, and there was men and women and children all in these, like, what the media would call cages, right? So they said that they were built by Trump to put children in. So we're going to cage the children now. And until somebody came for these children, that's where they would live, in the cage. Now, to me, using children to vilify your political opponent is not just. There's no balance there. Take a look, go to the US government website and take a look at who built those so-called cages to house people in while they were waiting for their border papers or whatever they were doing when they were crossing illegally. It was the Obama administration that built the cages. Don't believe me, go look it up. But nothing was ever said in the Obama administration. Nothing was ever said about these chain link divided off areas being called cages to put children in. Nothing was said. So naturally, how would you know if you weren't told? So you see what the pattern here is. In order for Ms. Hillary to win an election, she had to absolutely destroy any kind of reputation her opponent might have had, that what might have been in good standing. She had to ruin it to the whole country and the world, and it goes on. And that to me is not right. And it's not about the party, it's about the individuals that are doing this, and then the party supports the individual. Maybe the party wanted her in there for a particular reason, don't know, doesn't even matter. Point is, it wasn't right. It wasn't right that Obama's sectioned off areas for illegal immigrants to be put in until something could be done with them. It wasn't right that the media made you believe that they were built by Trump and they were to house children in, put children in cages. That's how it was presented to you. I saw it on the news. I know, you know. Okay, let's move on. All media outlets, mainstream media, they showed 100%, unabashedly showed 100% support for the Clinton campaign. And they crucified every corner, the Trump campaign. That's what the media did. The media, not the people of the United States, the media. That should say something. Media is supposed to be balanced. 50-50. 50 good for this party, 50 good for that party, 50 bad for that party, 50 bad for that. That's supposed to be balanced. You know, if you look back, you know it wasn't balanced. So it wasn't. But that's the way it went. Okay? The Trump campaign was crucified. Why? Because people in power wanted the Democratic Party in power, and she was running. Clinton was running as a Democrat. So yeah, got to crucify the other side. Especially because it was Trump. He was not a politician. He was a businessman, and they did not like when he said we want to clean the swamp. They did not like those words. He says what's on his mind. That's one thing you can count on. He says what's on his mind. All his thoughts like that, they kind of go whoa. But don't forget, all the politicians, both sides, always have similar thoughts. They just don't do it out loud. Trump did it out loud, and that was a problem for his campaign, although he did win the election first time. So it didn't do him that much harm, but he might have won it even more if he would have just rephrased things or maybe kept some things to himself. But you know what? That's not who he is. He doesn't pretend anything. He is who he is. So that's fine. Okay. And then there's the last one, the last little bit. The women that popped up. This is his first campaign, his first presidency, because these were my notes from back then. The women that popped up in the 11th hour of voting, well, not voting, but like the last literal month before the election would happen, accusing Donald Trump of sexually assaulting them. There was no record in history that they had been assaulted by him. There was no charge to him that he had sexually assaulted any woman. But they started coming forward, lots of them. This is very disturbing. It's a disturbing tactic against your opponent to bring these people forward, or however it happened. But here's the thing. The question is, why no charges or accusations of that nature were ever made to him? No allegations were made against him. There were no charges against him when these alleged assaults happened. Well, why? I mean, we know that sometimes a woman gets terribly assaulted and she's afraid. Okay, I get that. But every single one of them? But they're not afraid now? Now that there's an opponent that they want to get rid of, the Democratic Party wants to get rid of this Republican opponent, got to get more dirt on him. We don't have enough. He's a racist and he's a misogynist and he doesn't like DEI and all that kind of stuff. But that's not enough. We have to do more. We have to really make sure he doesn't win this election. How are we going to do that? Oh, I know. A sexual assault victim would be that. The public won't like that about him. But yet, nothing ever came of it. The only one that ever got any notoriety at all was Stormy Daniels, because she was a whore, a hooker, and he did hire her. And he said so. And he wasn't married when he did it. So, there you go. He didn't even deny it. You know, I don't know what to say about that other than he didn't deny it. Anyways, okay, so, but aside from that, a side note, where was that kind of vitriol and outrage when don't forget, these things happened when he was campaigning, when Trump was campaigning. These are the things that are being thrown, right? But what about this? Bill Clinton was the president in the Oval Office, and he received oral sex from a young intern. Where was the outrage? I remember people laughing about it. Where was the outrage from the media side? Where was it? It wasn't there. There was no outrage. It didn't go on for years and years and years and years. It was a joke. It became a joke in our world that Bill Clinton did this. See the difference? There's a difference, right? But anyways, it's really, for anybody to think that these women coming out of the woodwork decades after the so-called alleged thing happened, I don't give it any credit, because there was no records of anything. There was no hospital visits. There was no There was nothing. There was no legal involvement, no charges laid. There was nothing. It was just all like, da, 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 da. And the one prostitute he was with, he said, yeah, he was, but he wasn't married at the time. So there you go. All right. So the last thing I think it is that I've got here is Jeffrey Epstein. Oh my goodness. Where's the balance there? Okay. Now that story's been dropped like a hot potato, hasn't it? Wonder why. Anyways, there's always a guest list. There has to be a guest list on any aircraft that goes somewhere. So there are lists. Trump was never on a guest list. He was never on the list on that jet. He was never on a list at the island, ever. Yeah, he'd had meetings with Epstein, business meetings over the years, but he dumped Epstein in early stages, realizing this is not the kind of person I'm going to be doing business with. And that's on record as well, on an interview that he gave to ABC, I believe it was. So Trump was never listed as a guest on the Epstein jet, nor on the island. However, and that was either before, during, or even now his time as president, nothing ever, right? But guess who was listed on the private jet to the island over 26 times? Bill Clinton. Lots of other people too, but right now I'm just using one person to keep things simple. So, but there's been no outrage. No outrage. And, oh yeah, here's the final one. So when Joe Biden wore the title of president, his own daughter was in serious counseling facility. And when she was able, she published a book going in depth of when she was an adolescent and her father, Joe Biden, had showers with her. Where's the outrage? It was swept under the carpet so fast it wasn't even funny. Was it swept under the carpet because you, the people, condone fathers having showers with their adolescent daughters? Oh, right. Or is it because the media didn't want you to know and didn't want it focused on? I don't know. What about Joe Biden's adult son? He got caught in videos with multiple women, many prostitutes, we're told, and using a lot of illegal drugs, partying, going, sex parties. Not going to go into it. It was mentioned. Media did bring it up. That's how we all kind of know about it. But where was the outrage? And what was the only signature that wasn't the auto pen that Joe Biden did on releasing somebody from their past sins when he left office? His son. He released him from any wrongdoing. No investigation will ever be done. Anyways, it got dropped like a hot potato. No outrage. So again, I'm going to leave this with this. Remember that 90% of the U.S. media is controlled by 6 corporations, making it virtually impossible to get any information that is not consistent to their agenda. It'll maximize their profits. It's to their advantage to just have one agenda, to keep things going in that one direction. The only bastion of hope to find out any balanced information is the uncensored internet. And with that, I'm going to wish you a wonderful day. Wish you love, coming and going. And if you stayed this long, I hope it was somewhat entertaining, a little informative. We're not picking on anybody here, just bringing some stuff to the table. That's all. Take care. Till next time.